unstable, or should I say how turbulent it is. So today we're going to talk about how to detect and overcome the fake job market. This is Mark Anthony Dyson of the Job Scam Report. You'll find more about me, about the Job Scam Report, if you go to markanthonydyson.substack.com. You can also check out the podcast on any of the podcast directories like YouTube Music, Spotify, Apple Music, and of course Substack. And there's plenty of other places where you can also get a hold of podcasts. Today I'm going to talk about different aspects of a fake job versus a ghost job and what's the difference. And that's really the heart of it. So I'm going to jump right in, and should you have any questions, contact me on LinkedIn or YouTube. And feel free to ask any questions about scams, of course. If you want to, you can also continue to go to YouTube or LinkedIn to find out the updates that are happening practically several times a week. So let's define the fake job situation. The ghost job definition of a fake job, or should I say the definition of a ghost job, is a job that's not meant, is posted by a real company, that's not meant to be necessarily filled. And sometimes you can find that out through the dates, that if it's been a couple of months after the date, then more than likely they're just collecting data. They're collecting it sometimes even without your permission. A lot of times they will have a fake job is basically by a fake company, and they have all intent to steal your information and even take your money. Now, ghost jobs are, again, the essence of it is that they could be filling the pipelines, that they are trying to do it for either later on in the year or maybe not even do it at all. A lot of times they are sending that information with their third-party vendors, or arguably for them to share it with their third-party vendor. Other companies will have disclaimers. They should have options for you to, whether you want to share it with a third-party vendor or not. If they don't, then no telling what they will do with that information. So that's one of my pet peeves, that they don't really give option per se. Now, the primary intent of a fake job is to generally rob you, steal your personal information, even reuse it again and again for years and years. I do want to talk a little bit more about what it looks like in the pipeline and optics of having unfilled jobs with a real company. Now, unfortunately, recruiters don't try to fit the missing pieces as far as the information they have. In other words, if you're applying to a job and you don't fit this one, you might fit another one. Not all of them would have that, and it might be something that they might be able to do with the ones they work with. But as far as with other recruiters or within the company, that's going to be nearly impossible. In this particular environment, they can't do a whole lot because they're getting hundreds and hundreds of listings, or hundreds of applications for a job listing, for a single job listing. They're being paid on fulfilling that job that they're looking for, even if they have a dozen others that they're looking at. If they could, some of them would go ahead and say, hey, you might fit this job better. That serves them because they get paid for not just one job, but for two. So in essence, a lot of times they'll work that way, but a lot of times they will pass on and send you a rejection letter. But smaller companies might have that option. Larger companies most likely won't, but it depends. So I can't say. That might be something we dig into in other episodes. They're going to send you a letter rejecting you. And that is about as much as I can break it down generally without going too far. But let's talk about fake jobs, where fake jobs, the scammers are impersonators, and they're trying to swoop in to get all the information they can on you. Now, don't be surprised if they have a lot of information on you already, but they're looking to use that within their network and use it for other scams down the road, because a lot of them will not doing job scams, they're doing a bunch of other job scams. And they'll have a large database of people, and they'll have all the information that's going to be pertaining to them. So you might see a lot of that on LinkedIn where they'll have enough information to, and maybe some access to impersonate someone and try to lure someone in. You might see someone that said that, hey, this person really helped me, and they're referring you to another resume writer or a job coach or a career coach or whatever. And they will use a Gmail address and they'll try to get your information that way, as well as getting you to pay some money up front. But basically, your personal information is what they really want. So you're going to need to, you'll have to be very careful in navigating that. In fact, I probably would be careful not to take anybody who would be that bold. One of the things that shouldn't be on your resume is too much information. Like you shouldn't have a physical address there. It just gives them more ammunition. You should always use a Gmail address or even a Yahoo address, and then use a service like Google Voice or Umail so that they won't have your real number. You can use those as vanity numbers that really work well with your phone. Recruiters, hiring managers, and generalists, or whoever's part of the company, again, of those fake jobs, they're using that data to help some other cause or maybe even the same cause. It's interesting how they can use one bits of information for several different persons or purposes. And they would be able to, they do a lot of damage that way. I'll get Craig Fisher back on, who I've worked with before on one of the early episodes to help parse some of that out. But they don't have to, they have no intent to do anything legal. And that's why you should research everything up front as much as you possibly can. Another aspect you should look at are the common platforms that both of them are on, that you have the fake job market, you have the real jobs that are available. You'll have to also discern what's really a ghost job and what's a legitimate opportunity that's ready to be filled as soon as possible. These days, with hundreds of jobs going to fake jobs and ghost jobs, your job is hard to find which one is going to be the real one. Unless you gather intel at the beginning, it would make it easier for you to navigate this aspect. Hopefully, you'll be able to discern by looking at some of these posts that sometimes you can tell if the date, they have the date of something that's passed or whether it's up from a month from now. In other words, you have a date that's, let's say, is July 25th, July 20, and the date was back in June. More than likely, it's a ghost job. A real job, a fake job, is something they're usually trying to make you feel that it's urgent because they take advantage of their desperation a lot of times, or the anxiousness to get a job. So you'll have to look deeper in both those cases, where you got to look at what's going to be most realistic, and you're going to have to be ready to do the deep research. But whatever you do, always go to the company website to verify everything. Call the company, try to contact and contact the recruiter and see if you can get additional information. Fake jobs are going to lead you along. And again, because of the way that they're trying to move, they're trying to get as much information on the front end as first, such as your financial banking information, your ID. They may even ask you for your past job ID. But whatever it is, they're going to try to put the job in your lap. So there's really no barrier to entry when it comes to, so you're really not, in most cases, you're not really having an interview. They're just making it seem like it's an interview to get your personal information. And those fake jobs as well, they're also selling the idea that they're flexible, great paying, and that you get plenty of BTO, and that the pay is pretty generous. You can make $1,500 in 2 days if you're anxious and easy, as opposed to or that you're anxious enough, and then make it real easy for you to get that job that really doesn't exist. Ghost jobs, you may never hear from anyone in most cases, unless they really did put it off. until later on. And again, the fact that unless the company has a high turnover, which you should always be asking, why is there a high turnover? That would also help you discern whether that's a ghost job or not. Well, so let's talk about risk level. Now, fake jobs, of course, is all risk, and there's no return on investment or any time on your money. And it really costs you in more ways than one. Not only they can take your personal cash. I know that a lot of you have applied to hundreds of jobs, let's say, in the last 30 days, and nobody calls you back. Those jobs are probably legitimate, depending upon how you did it. You also applied to a job that probably even had about 100, 200 other people apply to it. And the competition is fierce. But if you've researched what you're supposed to do, and maybe you can try to connect all the dots, which is legitimate, and that perhaps you're taking enough time to where you're applying to 30 jobs, not 100 jobs, then that makes it a little bit easier. 1 out of 5 jobs are, according to a survey, looked at tens of thousands of jobs. They're saying that 1 out of 5 people are those jobs are ghosts. And it's not that it's going to be advertised as a ghost job, because if it's a real job, then they're not looking to make money. It's a fake job. They're looking to get your personal information. The job seeker has to be on guard that not to be easy to face the financial, emotional losses that are available to them. But scammers are looking to get that to get this whatever they can out of you. So where it's going to cost you more money as opposed to a ghost job is basically you're running on a treadmill to nowhere. And it's like the bridge to nowhere. So all those things are true. This is basically to determine what is fake and what isn't fake, and what's better and what's fake, and the illusion of what's real. I understand that some of us want to go and say, hey, I'm applying to all these fake jobs. And it's not necessarily true. They're all mixed in these days. That's why we call it a fake job market. It's not important to me whether you say are fake or you're complaining. It's for the fact that recruiters are looking at all the platforms and seeing you complain about all fake jobs and ghost jobs all the time, instead of trying to offer something that's valuable to a potential employer. So they may take that negatively more than positively. So when they see your application, they're going to see you, and they're going to remember how you are and learn. And as I've been saying lately, you are what you've seen. And if you want to make a case to be hired, you have to kind of offer value. You're going to see that a handful, or they're going to see, if you're complaining a lot, they're going to see that you're a handful to work with when it comes to complaining when something is wrong, instead of bringing solutions. So a lot of this has to do with your job search, as to be as strategic as possible and be more discerning up front, and do better research up front than on the back or from behind. So my recommendation is to really take a look at that chart that I had there in the Substack article I also wrote, which, by the way, I go into much more depth in the article. You'll see the chart there, and you'll see how it's all laid out. I make it pretty plain and simple. So what's fake, again, and what's ghost, and how it relates to all things, you can find more resources at the Job Scam Report. I talk about a lot of these things ad nauseum, but again, you can find the Job Scam Report on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Substack, and many other places. You can also put it in your favorite AI or Google search. You'll want to find out more about me and what I'm basically doing with the Job Scam Report and my other at the Job Scam Report, and also markanthonydyson.substack.com. In the meantime, I thank you very much, and I hope that you're subscribing. Please consider subscribing to $5 per year. Will get you all the content that's there, including a couple of pieces of exclusive content that I have now. There'll be some video series I'll be doing. There'll be some special guests I hope to have that'll be exclusive to the Job Scam Report community. In the meantime, I thank you very much for joining us. I hope to have the panel back here soon, at least by the middle of September. If you have any ideas of what you want to hear, let me know. Let me hear about the scams that you've experienced, that you've come across, or maybe they've been different from what I'd like to know. Perhaps you can hit me up on LinkedIn as well as going to the Substack right there. In the meantime, thank you very much, and I appreciate all who've supported me in the last year. And I hope that you'll have a great week.